So, aldehydes, is this a note that you guys enjoy? Once very popular with fragrances like Chanel Number 5, but I feel like it's a very classic note, and it's been recently brought back in a lot of different fragrance launches this year that features aldehydes. Most importantly, this one right here, ACNE Studios from the house of Frederic Malle, and also New Look from the house of DIOR. Do you guys know these two fragrances? But it's not those two. There's a few other fragrances that feature aldehydes, and I figured I'd do a video on more modern aldehydic scents or fragrances. So we've got fragrances here, 12 of them, that are from the 2020s. So they're fairly new launches, and they go in different directions. Like there's even one with patchouli and aldehydes. There's a fizzy cola kind of a fragrance with aldehydes, but various different styles. But most importantly, if you smell aldehydes in fragrances, I get reminded of Chanel Number 5 or fragrances like that, like Hermes Calèche, First by Van Cleef & Arpels, and so on. So today I'm talking about aldehydes and fragrances, modern aldehydic fragrances. Find out what they are coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Sebastian. I'm talking about aldehydic scents today, aldehydic fragrances. Let me know if you're a fan. Do you enjoy aldehydic notes in fragrances? Typically for me, they are very airy and they give a lift to the fragrances when they have a lot of like heavy base notes. Typically, that's what I get with aldehydes. And also, if they intensify to aldehydes in fragrances, there's definitely a fizziness, a sparkling effervescence, and also soapy clean. Some of these will go soapy clean. Some of them will have ambery notes and things like that in the base, but all the different directions of aldehydes. Let me know if you're a fan of aldehydes and fragrances. Put a comment down and let me know what your favorite aldehydic fragrances are, modern ones and also some classic ones. But let's get started with the first fragrance. We've got Naked Laundry from the house of Born to Stand Out. There's a video I did with June of Born to Stand Out, and we spoke about the 3 Animalic fragrances from the house that just launched, including Filthy Musk and also another one which I'm drawing a blank on right now. But Naked Laundry is the clean aldehydic fragrance with animalic notes. It has mandarin orange, aldehydes, ambrinol, skatole, mimosa, white caramel, honey, Zafryl, tonka beans, tonkitone, sensual milk, ambery woods. A lot of stuff going on in here. This is currently featured in the mystery box, the latest Scent Club mystery box. Let me know if you've gotten your kit already. But again, this has that cleanness. It's almost like you're fighting with clean notes with dirty notes because they featured skatole in here. So skatole is an animalic note, and you will notice that. The idea of the fragrance is, imagine checking into a hotel. You've got, a brand spanking new clean sheets bed, and you go in and do your thing with your loved one, partner, husband, wife, or whatever, and the sheets are dirty. That's the idea. So that is Naked Laundry from the house of Born to Stand Out. And again, for me, aldehydes have a clean thing about them, a cleanness about them, and a lot of times they will remind you of laundered shirts and clean sheets and things like that. So the inspiration for Naked Laundry is perfect, I think. So the next fragrance I'm talking about is ACNE Studios from the house of Frederic Malle. So if you're confused by the name, because some people say this, I've received many comments, some people say this is the worst name for a fragrance. So ACNE Studios fragrance from Frederic Malle is a collaboration with ACNE Studios, the clothing designer brand. So that's the name of the fashion house. So it's a collaboration with that fashion house. And this is kind of like a similar collaboration with Dries Van Noten from several years ago, the Vanillic Sandalwood fragrance. Since Dries Van Noten launched his own collection of fragrances, they axed that fragrance. So maybe ACNE Studios might launch their own fragrances in the future, and that will happen. But for now, we've got this very aldehydic fragrance. And if you like the fragrances like Les Eaux Primordiales Color Premiere or Blanche by the house of Byredo and a few other Chanel fragrances, you're probably going to really dig this. This is very clean, effervescent, sparkly, and laundered fresh, but it features aldehydes, frankincense, orange blossom, peach skin, rose, sandalwood, vanilla violet, white musk. It does have those classic touches, and you will be reminded, all of these fragrances to me will remind you of that whole Chanel No. 5 aldehydic thing. Some more than others, but here for me it's quite prominent, and I believe Chanel No. 22 in the Les Exclusives collection is what this really reminds me of, because that fragrance has those aldehydic touches, but it's a bit more of a luxurious take on fragrances rather than the very popular Chanel No. 5. But either way, this is very clean and fresh. I feel like it's very fresh to wear. Again, it's very clean, it's effervescent, and very, very aldehydic forward. But for sure, you'll be reminded of some other aldehydic fragrances. Let me know if you're a fan of Acne Studios. Put a comment down below. And speaking of Chanel, I do have COMETE here. COMETE is not necessarily claiming that there's aldehydes in the notes. According to the Chanel website, they don't list it. But for me, I get aldehydes in here. It does have a bit of an aldehydic touch. It's nicely effervescent against the cherry blossom accord and the heliotrope and the iris. I feel like this has grown on me a little more, and I'm really enjoying it. At first, I thought cherry blossom accord is not my favorite note. I don't like a sakura type fragrance, but in the end, I'm liking it. And I think what they've done here is brought out the almondy touches of the cherry or cherry blossom accord. Because when you smell the blossom, you do get those almondy touches. And the fact that they have heliotrope in here, which is also a very powdery purple flower, but you get almondy touches from that note as well, and it's very, very powdery. But in the surrounding part of the fragrance, the outside, I feel like it's sealed with aldehydes. There's an airy quality about it, clean and almost like laundered sheets, but it's not super strong like the previous others. So I am getting an aldehydic touch here, but it's not super strong, all mixed in with the powdery touches of not only heliotrope being very powdery, but iris and also the cherry blossom accord. It's grown on me quite a bit. I'm enjoying it. It wasn't a love at first sniff. I'm glad I got it, and I have reviewed it for you guys. If you want a full review of COMETE, go check it out. But the next fragrance, starting off the aldehydes trend of fragrances early this year, it came out, I believe, in January. This is Dior's New Look from 2024. It used to be New Look 1947, but they dropped and killed that fragrance and re-released it as New Look. This is Francis Kurkdjian's, I think the first like real Dior Privé. I believe it's the first real Dior Privé. No, it's not. Sorry. Take that back. But this is an aldehydic fragrance creation from him. It's aldehydes, frankincense, and amber. You'll definitely be experiencing that aldehydic touch that's prominent in fragrances like Chanel No. 5. But this one has a smoky touch about it. You definitely pick up the incense, and it eventually settles to an amber. But what's happening here with the aldehydes? It's airy. It's light. It's ethereal, it's floating in air, and you've got these denser notes like frankincense and amber, which eventually settles to, but it makes it light to wear and easier to wear. But you got to be into aldehydes. You got to like that kind of Chanel No. 5 aldehydic smell, which I get from this one. It's soapy, it's spicy, it's fresh, and also ambery and clean when it's drying down. So that's New Look from the house of Dior Privé. And then the next fragrance is also a Francis Kurkdjian creation, but this one's going into a complete fresh direction. This is from his own house, Maison Francis Kurkdjian. This is 724. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. So I think this used to be called 754. They've relaunched it as 724. I don't know, they're doing all these weird relaunch things. But this is, again, very fresh take on aldehydes. It's there, you'll notice it, but I don't get that very much like that Chanel No. 5 aldehydic experience. In the end, it's a lot of citruses mixed in with the aldehydes. You also have white sandalwood here, bouquet of fresh white flowers, jasmine, and also musks. It's clean, it's musky, it does have effervescence, but it's a very, very fresh fragrance to wear, and it settles to a woody musky experience. I think it's definitely a nice fragrance from the house. I've got a few other fragrances from this house that I prefer a little more for this kind of fresh, citrusy, clean experience. but I think he did a good job with this one, and definitely solid fragrance. So let me know if you're familiar with 724 from the house of Maison Francis Christian. So up next, we've got a budget fragrance, a cheapie from the house of Zara. It's Flower Please, this one right here. Are you familiar with this one? So this was not one of my favorite fragrances in this collection, but I also have kind of grown to enjoy it, and it's kind of reminding me more and more of something like Blanche from the house of Byredo. So it's a very cheap fragrance, and I think this collection is also a male targeted collection. So it's interesting that they haven't made it unisex. I could be wrong about that, so I double check. But this is white linen note, aldehydes, jasmine petals, white musk, and salted amber. Sure, there's a bit of a saltiness here. It does dry down to an amber, but it's got that very fizzy effervescence up top with the linen, and then all the musk in here, and some floral notes thrown in as well. It's definitely clean, it's easy to wear, nothing really heavy, but very like something almost like an afterthought, especially since it's Zara. It's not necessarily uber luxurious. You don't have to worry about wasting your money because it doesn't last a long time. You can spritz away throughout the day and smell clean and fresh and aldehydic. So this is Flower Please from the house of Zara. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. This next fragrance is a ladies targeted release from the house of YSL. And even though they don't list the note of aldehydes in here, I get aldehydes from it. This is Libre Absolute Platine from the house of YSL. It's a 2022 launch. Remember, I'm doing fragrances from the 2020s. More modern, takes on aldehydic fragrances. So it's Orange Blossom Absolute, White Lavender Accord, and also Diva Lavender. And I'm getting aldehydes, especially since also this reminds me of the now discontinued Metallique fragrance from Tom Ford. If you're into Metallique, go get your bottles because that's gone. This reminds me of that, but also the word platine is appropriate. It's got this kind of metallic sharpness about it, and I think the way they've blended the fragrance, it comes off like that. But I'm getting aldehydes for sure. It's definitely very aldehydic to me. Lots of aromatics. It's overdosed with lavender and orange blossom, and I think the orange blossom lavender thing is key for this collection, so it makes sense that they have it. But most likely they have aldehydes. They're only crediting 3 notes. It's not really 3 notes, obviously, because I also get some ambery touches in there. It's fresh, but it settles to a bit of an ambery thing all along with the aldehydic touches. So that is Libre Absolute Platine. And the next fragrance, this one's going into patchouli direction from the house of Van Cleef & Arpels from their collection Extraordinaire fragrances. This is Patchouli Blanc. If you're a person, you know, patchouli is one of my favorite notes. I speak about it all the time. In fact, I created a fragrance with Juicebox called 54 focusing on patchouli, but some of you don't like it. It's a polarizing note to some. If you think that it's too earthy, it's too woody, and you want something a little more lighter, more effervescent, I think you could try this one and see if you like it, because the aldehydes really does tone down all its heavy depth with that comes with the patchouli. This is also not a chocolate cakey patchouli, it's an aldehydic patchouli. So it's a very ethereal, light and airy, fizzy and all that good stuff. But in addition to the aldehydes and patchouli, there's a rose in here, so the rose is prominent, along with the musky cashmeran, white musk, pink pepper. So it's spicy, it's musky, it's woody, and of course earthy and floral, but very aldehydic. You'll notice it. Against the patchouli, I think it's nice. I prefer the chocolate cakey ambery patchouli, but this is a very clean patchouli, and it wears gorgeous, especially the fact that they also have that beautiful red rose combined in it. So this is Patchouli Blanc. Patchouli Blanc means white patchouli. All right, next up, going to the house of Parfums de Nicolai, or Nicolai Parfumer Creator. This is Poudre de Musc. This one also has rose, but it's very powdery, extremely powdery. Musk and aldehydes do create powdery touches. This one also has hawthorn, orange blossom, rose, sandalwood. So in the end, it's a very musky, powdery, aldehydic fragrance. Powdery can come off very heavy and dense, so the aldehydes once again gives it lift. It's almost like you're sprinkling powder rather than it falling down, it floats up in the air kind of a thing. That's what happens with this one. But you do have the rose. It's nicely blended with everything here, the hawthorn, the orange blossom, and then of course the depth and the creaminess of the sandalwood. But it's very musky and aldehydic. Fizzy, you know, sparkling, effervescent, and all that good stuff comes to mind with Poudre de Musc. And it does smell great, and definitely something coming out of this house of Parfums de Nicolai. So this is Poudre de Musc. It's actually Poudre de Musc Intense, I should say. I keep forgetting because a lot of their fragrances have the intense after it. But the next fragrance, going to the house of Gravel. You guys know Gravel? You guys like these kind of things inside bottles? So Gravel's Evolution last year was featured in the Scent Club Mystery Box. This came out last year along with another fragrance called Hazel. This is kind of a classic leaning aldehydic fragrance with an overdose of aldehydes. But along with Orange Blossom, there's ambergris here, jasmine, orange, ginger, raspberry, tuberose, guaiac wood, tonka, and vanilla. This does get ambery in the dry down. Also a slight bit animalic from the fact that there's ambergris here. It's a tolerable amount of ambergris. Sometimes ambergris can be a bit too much for me, but this one you can tolerate it. And you know, in the old days, they used to combine a lot of these types of notes together, especially with an overdose of aldehydes with the animalic notes in the base. So it does have that. But along the way, there's citruses, floral notes, spices, and some light fruity touches as well. I think it's nicely done. It fits the brand perfectly. This is Gravel's Evolution. Let me know if you're familiar with that. A few more fragrances. This next one's called Yuzu Soda from the House of Strangers Parfumery. Are you guys familiar with this one? So this is the aldehydic fragrance that goes fizzy. Like this is uber fizzy. Basically, they've added notes in here along with the aldehydes to create an overdose of fizzy effervescence. Like imagine opening a can of Coke or something. In this case, a yuzu soda, and it's fizzing and sparkling, and you're putting it against your face, your mouth, and those sparkles are hitting your nose. That's what aldehydes does to you in fragrances. So you really experience it here. But it's aldehydes, yuzu, bitter orange, camphor, petitgrain, basil, musk, mint, nashi, pear, rosemary, cream soda. So it's a very soda experience, but in this case, more of a fruity, citrusy take on a soda. I love those kind of sodas myself. So this one kind of sounds like something I would like to drink if it existed. But really delicious, slightly gourmand, but more fruity, fizzy, sparkling, fresh fragrance, yuzu soda from the House of Strangers Parfumery. And then we're going to end the list here with I'm featuring it here, even though originally this fragrance launched in 2007 under a different name. It was brought back last year as Clean Suede. So this was originally called the Tom of Finland. That's the fragrance it was, and I believe Etat Libre Orange lost their licensing agreement with that, so they ended the agreement and they relaunched the fragrance as Clean Suede rather than discontinuing the fragrance. So it's a suede fragrance, a suede leather fragrance, but with a lot of aldehydes, so it gives you that kind of lift that you want rather than like this heavy dense note of suede leather. So it's really nice that they've done that because it makes it easier to wear. But this one also has a lot of vanilla, so it creates a bit of a gourmand effect against the suede leather and the aldehydes. But along with birch leaves, lemons, pine, pepper, and ambergris, I think it's one of the best suede leather fragrances. If you haven't tried it, please do. It's called Clean Suede, and it makes sense. It's totally clean because of the aldehydes, but it's also very vanillic, almost gourmand. Anyway, Clean Suede, formerly Tom of Finland, and that's the last fragrance for you guys. What are your thoughts on these fragrances? Let me know. Put a comment down below if you're a fan of these. And also, are there anything else that launched within the 2020s that features aldehydes? Again, I don't have every single fragrance in my collection, but I was looking through to find some and I couldn't. Maybe there are some hidden somewhere along the way, but if you know of any, do let me know. Add a comment below. But be sure it's from 2020 to 2024 now. If you want to watch more aldehydic fragrance videos, I do have them on the channel. You can search for aldehydes or aldehydic fragrances, but I'll link them in the info box as well. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.